I can't be canceled, there's no way that you can stop me. I'm fully independent, there's no label who can drop me. Y'all been starting rumors, let me help you with some. Yeah, y'all can't cancel me. My life is scandal free. There ain't no sponsors taking losses cause the brand is me. My hands are clean, my family and my fans agree. Y'all can't cancel me for facts because you're mad and weak. How's a man say I'm clickbait if he gonna use this face to get clicks on his page? Y'all hypocrites are made. But I ain't tripping about these bullies, it ain't 6th grade. Go ahead and diss me trying to sell a couple mixtapes. I am not playing it safe, I said what I said, it is what it is.
I don't care if you mad at me, okay? Go ahead and change the channel. Don't waste your time trying to cancel me, okay? They love me cause they know that I'm it. Say what you want, I guess it is what it is. Haters can talk, but they can't cancel the kid. Go ahead and go off, try and say this is it.
Aaron Tuttle here. It's storm season in Oklahoma, and with that comes torrential rain, high winds, and hail. To protect your home and your family from these threats, the one roofing company you should trust is Ferguson Roof Systems. They've been providing the best in roofing services for nearly half a century. Ferguson is Oklahoma's full-service roofing company, certified with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and a 5-star rating on Google. And with Ferguson now offering Class 4 impact-resistant shingles, now is the time to trust them with your home's roof. Get started today at FergusonRoofSystems.com. Hey everyone, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle back with you again. It is about 9:40 here on your Wednesday evening. We've got some storms to talk about as the forecast is becoming a little more active around here as we round out the month of May. Keep in mind we have gone through most of this storm season on a quiet note, which is great news. It's a lot like that last year. We had very low tornado counts initially, and then we kind of added to them toward the end, but it was not your typical supercell created tornadoes. They were more of those QLCS type squall line tornadoes. And we may see some of that action as we go in through our June, because usually we're pretty active until about the middle of June, even in a pattern that's relatively quiet for most of spring. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you like and share this video. Take the time to hit the bell on Facebook. That tells Facebook to notify you when I go live. Same thing for YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to all the channels that you're watching on. That way you can get updated when I do go live. Because when I go live, it's usually for a reason. It's usually not a good reason. All right, let's talk about what's happening out there currently. By the way, see you guys checking on YouTube, leaving your comments. Same thing on Facebook. So and on Twitter, Twitter as well, guys. Appreciate you. All right, let's get on with the program. First thing is first. You know what? I'm going to launch a radar first. That's what I'm going to do. There are actually some storms out across the Texas Panhandle this evening, up across Kansas. There were several tornadoes up there in Kansas and the Texas Panhandle, as far as at least warnings were concerned, out west. I do know there were several touchdowns up north. So it's still pretty active up there across that part of the country. So here's a look at the radar view up there. All this colors you see and all these little icons spinning, that's still all active severe weather. And if we look down at the Texas Panhandle, we still got some active storms down here around Amarillo, south of there, between there and Lubbock. Some good thunderstorms with tornado possible tags out there. There are a couple of warnings out there. And then also we have this batch of storms, which is up here in northwestern Oklahoma, and it's actually had a little bit of wind with it. This particular report here says there was some wind damage with 3-inch tree limbs broken. So that's some pretty decent wind to create that. Also some hail up to around golf ball size, potentially as the biggest amounts, probably a little less than that though, and around Laverne and Freedom area. And this activity is actually drifting to the east here this evening. So we're going to look for, of course, a lot of lightning associated with this particular storm complex until it starts to weaken here over the next, let's say a half an hour. It should continue to slowly weaken as it moves to the east. But for right now, still packing a little bit of a punch up here north of Woodward. You can see the rest of the state is looking pretty good right now. Now, what we're going to watch for, believe it or not, is a cluster of storms that develops in this area overnight tonight and then moves to the east and moves to the southeast. That is what's going to put a wrench into the plans for Thursday, because it all depends on where this line forms and where it ends as to what kind of action we're going to get out of it. So let's get on with it. Here's a look at the severe thunderstorm potential for tomorrow. So we do have a enhanced risk. This is an orange. across a good chunk of Oklahoma, slight risk surrounding it. So pretty much everywhere in the state is expected to see some rainfall, and most of us some severe weather in the form of either potential of a tornado, up to baseball size hail, or even up to 80-mile-per-hour winds. So as you can tell, that's going to be a little bit of a busy time frame. Now, looking at the tornado potential, it's on the low category here in the green. It's on a medium category up here, just northeast Oklahoma City up toward Tulsa. If I were to show you the Tulsa area, they are in a enhanced region as well. That the greatest threat of a tornado is expected in large hail. Just the north side of Tulsa to Bartlesville, Miami. Now, all this is subject to change. I'm going to tell you why here in just a second. But needless to say, same kind of idea as far as the threats go, which is large hail, damaging winds, and yes, the potential for a couple of tornadoes. Now, if we look at the Storm Prediction Center, this is where they have the big outline that continues to expand elsewhere across from the western parts of Oklahoma and Texas, and then back out here toward a good chunk of Missouri, at least the southern half of Missouri. Now, when you look at the tornado potential, they're going to highlight that little sweet spot here in northeast Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, and just kind of getting into southwest Missouri for a little heightened activity. Otherwise, you do see the general big brown ring and then the green ring after that. So each ring is a step at probabilities as to whether or not you'll see a tornado. The green is always the CYA, just in case, can't rule it out. The brown is always, I'll probably see one or two. And then the yellow, the probability is a lot higher that we're going to see. It's like a confidence factor of a couple of tornadoes. Now, if you look at the analog guidance, which is you take a look at a similar pattern in the past, you take a look, okay, did we get severe weather out of it? Yes, we did. And we got it over a large area of Oklahoma. When you break it down into wind, there's 45% roughly probability. Break it down to hail. Again, about 45% probability. You see how it's been clustered across the northern counties. And then a tornado threat also around 5%, not a very high one, but yes, historically, given a similar type situation, tornadoes would be potentially possible. Now, if we look at the hazard guidance, the same kind of idea broken down, this is a look at least 5 severe weather reports. In other words, that'd either be large hail, damaging wind, or a tornado overall. And it does have a high probability, around 50 to 60% over a large area of central northeastern Oklahoma. So there's some really good guidance that the probability is going to be significant enough to, yes, this will be a pretty good match for tomorrow. Now, if we break it down to hail reports, same kind of idea, kind of highest over central northeast Oklahoma. When we break it down to wind reports, kind of over north central Oklahoma and central Oklahoma. So we break it into tornado itself. Now, this is the key element here. This is probability of 5 tornado reports. In other words, 5 tornadoes. It's 10%. In other words, it's almost not even on the map. But if we break it down to 1 tornado report, it goes up to around a probability of 40%, especially across northern northeastern Oklahoma. And then in central Oklahoma, about 30%. So a tornado or two is, climatologically speaking, is on the table given this particular pattern. Now let's take a look at the models. See how things have progressed tonight. So there's those storms up there to their west dying out. And that new cluster up there across Kansas that continues to kind of migrate east, that dies out. And then we have the new round that develops late tonight to early tomorrow morning across southwest and south central Kansas. And then that moves across the northern counties of Oklahoma and then into central Oklahoma as we head into the late afternoon and evening. And a lot of these have these little red helicity tracks with them, which indicates large hail, some good rotating storms, and yes, likely the potential of a tornado. As we head into the overnight period, it does exit the state, and then we'll get some new development out here on Friday afternoon, out here in western and southwestern Oklahoma. Same kind of idea, potential tornado, otherwise some hail and some wind with those as they work their way into North Texas Friday evening. So we got a couple of rounds of storms to go through. Now let's break it down in more detail for you. And each model is going to have its own little twist, its own little take on how things will evolve. And this is where things get dicey. All right. So let's go through the big picture here. There's that cluster of storms by daybreak tomorrow in northwestern and northern Oklahoma. Now this is the NAM model. Look what happens by lunchtime. This is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It already has the leading edge of this line moving into Tulsa and already through Oklahoma City. So the problem is this is kind of a either decaying MCS cluster that hasn't quite died yet, or it's dead, but the outflow boundary is already triggering new development. That's the way the models are looking at it. Either way, it's trying to shove this boundary farther to the south during the first part of the day. Well, what that happens is, and if that were to happen, then those big areas we highlighted up here for the better indices of the severe weather, well, that's not going to happen. They get shoved down southward now into this area. It all depends on where that outflow boundary lines up. And like I say, each model has its own different take. So this is the NAM model, and it moves the line through, weakens it in the afternoon, really for no reason, but it does. And then it tries to generate a supercell here in central Oklahoma in the evening hours, and then that kind of bubbles back up into a secondary line overnight with a low-level jet. Then that moves on south and east. So it's similar to the other one. The other one kept it as one solid cohesive unit. This one broke up into two different rounds. Two mini rounds, if you will, with severe weather on both of those. So what we're going to do is I want to show you a couple of the potential outputs. And this new data just came in, so you're going to have to bear with me as I look at it and analyze it on the fly. But to see, this is we're in the CAM models for the ARW. Same idea. There's the early morning to mid-morning in northwest Oklahoma. It blows through Oklahoma City by lunchtime. And then it kind of redevelops down south in southeastern Oklahoma, a little stronger down there, but not as big of an event, right? So when it comes in, the timing is everything when it comes to storms. If the stuff comes in too early, it really limits the severe weather threat. We go to the Nestle run of this. Similar idea, storm complex there in northwest Oklahoma in the morning hours, moving into Oklahoma City around lunchtime. Now this one has it moving in a couple hours slower, which allows more instability. Therefore, it starts to bubble up these little helicity tracks here in central Oklahoma, which again could be potentially either hail or a brief tornado. And this is where things even get more complicated. All right, so let's just say, for example, this is all a hybrid approach, and you get this little outflow boundary that comes south like this, right? And then things actually die out. All right, so there's no storms. But then they bubble up late afternoon into the evening hours. Well, this little boundary becomes an enhanced boundary for vorticities. It's a baroclinicity. That's called spin in the atmosphere. So if a storm ingests that boundary, it can produce a tornado, and sometimes a significant tornado as long as it's along that boundary. So that's the little caveat here. We got to pay attention where these boundaries are going to line up, and we're not going to know this tonight. We won't know it until how the storms materialize in the morning, where they put the brakes on, that kind of deal. But this consensus is the same, which is widespread showers and storms, pockets of hail, damaging wind, and yes, a couple of tornadoes. The actual hardcore draw on the line, county by county, okay, where's the best threat? It's going to be along that boundary, and in a sense of kind of a squall and more of those QLCS types. So it's going to be kind of a hybrid event tomorrow, is what I'm trying to say. It's a little more muddied than what it would normally be. So I'm going to zoom in Oklahoma here, and we're going to take a look at the latest HER run and see what it does with the storms here for tonight. So again, it disappears that stuff pretty quickly in northwest Oklahoma. There's that batch for northwest, 8, 9, 10, 11. Same kind of idea. Comes into the Oklahoma City metro right around lunchtime. You can see it bubbling up here along the I-44 corridor up toward Tulsa. And as we head into 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, you do see some helicity tracks here built in. So it's kind of a combination of the others that we're looking at. Now we look at the sounding forecast. The sounding does like the idea of a potential tornado, and I'll tell you why. It also likes the idea of some significant hail sizes up to around 4 inches in diameter, historically, when we look at the analogs. So that's some big hail. The lifting condensation levels are low. There's no cap at all involved. Good instability. Cape values around 3,000 plus. We call a little slinky look to the atmosphere of the wind profile here. Now, the only thing different, it's a little weak, but this is going to offset this, is for tornadoes anyway, I like to see a good southeast wind at the surface. All right. Now this forecast sounding has more of a south-southwest wind. So normally that would help to limit tornado potential. However, the storm will be moving to the east and to the southeast. So what does that do? It force feeds the storm. It kind of changes the environment in its immediate vicinity. So yeah, it might have a southwest wind feeding into it, or south-southwest, but because it's moving southeast, it changes the direction, the vector of the component, therefore kind of offsets that little weakness at the lowest level as far as shear goes when you're trying to get directional shear. That's number one. Number two, again, is the outflow boundary. So I go back up here, and I'm just going to just assume, right? So we're going to say there's an outflow boundary right here, okay? And it's all quiet along it. There's some storms up here. And this is just for illustration purposes. This part of the storm, as it ingests this outflow boundary, is step two, how you can overcome a little weakness in the wind field for producing tornadoes. So I do believe we'll see at least a couple of tornadoes tomorrow, whether or not they're going to be hybrid kind of on the QLCS leading edge line with interactions from boundaries, or whether they're going to be true supercellular. It may be a combination of both depending on the time of the day. And things could really get going early in the morning. There could be some freak storms in the morning hours with that cluster that produces severe weather. But anyway, here's 3 o'clock, here's 4 o'clock. You can see how they kind of continue over central and eastern Oklahoma. There's some bubbling up out west as that secondary line starts to redevelop. There's 6 o'clock in the evening. And even these storms out here at this particular point, here's a good example of that. So when I was talking about the outflow boundary, look at this forecast sounding at 6 o'clock here in Oklahoma City. Now all of a sudden you see how the winds now go, oh no, pick that color, go back to this color. Now they're out of the east, and then they kind of turn to the south and southwest like this. So they're rotating on a staircase. All right, so it's like going a staircase that rotates up like this. So with that said and done, all of a sudden, that outflow boundary has enhanced the low-level shear in the directional sense of things. And that's helped to produce or increase the tornado threat for any secondary storms that try to develop here in the late afternoon. So what the data is trying to say is we get that morning round that moves into northern and into then central, northeastern Oklahoma through lunchtime. And then it moves to the south and east, and it dies out. And it leaves behind an outflow boundary that stretches right across central Oklahoma. New storms then develop with peak heating, with no cap, late in the day, probably along the leading edge of a weak front that's moving in, west-northwest. And then those would move south and east again and ride back into that little boundary we're talking about. So that does mean, depending on where that boundary lies, we could have a tornado here in the greater Oklahoma City metro area. That's on the table. So that's kind of the things that we have to look at. And unfortunately, those fine details cannot be known until the day of the event, which is unfortunate. Hey, we're getting better, at that kind of stuff, but we're just not quite there. But regardless, there's 6 o'clock in the evening. Here's 7. There's 8. Now it's a cluster of storms. Squall line is formed and pressing into 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock down in southeast Oklahoma. And then things quiet down, like we talked about, southwest Oklahoma probably on Friday, either in the midday hours or maybe another round in the late afternoon. So, but confined probably the southwestern third of the state is where that would stay for that threat of any storm activity. Otherwise, most of the state is quiet after that. Now, we talked last night about the other side of the coin here, and that is flash flooding. So I'm going to show you what the potential model can be. We'll look at 2 of them here to give you an idea, because each one's going to be a little bit more exaggerated than the other. This is the HER, and there's a little bit of spotted yellow in here. That's 4 inches of rain. It just happens to be in northern Oklahoma County, southern Lincoln County, so right around North Edmond, Guthrie, and Yukon, all that kind of stuff. So there is some indications wherever there's some training that goes on with the intersection of those boundaries, you're going to get some flash flooding, and of course that's a very dangerous situation to be in. Now that's for the HER. I'm going to go to the NAM, and we're going to see where the flash flooding threat kind of ends up. It's a little different, remember, on its look as far as the final position of the boundaries and stuff. So it likes the flash flooding threat a little bit more to the south, down here just on the south end of Oklahoma City, say from Norman southward down to Paoli or Paul's Valley, and then kind of back east toward McAllister, and then back up here to Tulsa, a little sweet spot here. It seems to favor that region with rainfall amounts up to 6 or 7 inches of rain. Now this is all convective, sometimes little convective feedback, but the idea is, again, you get training of too many of these heavy supercell type storms or these merging of squall lines and boundaries. You can get a lot of QPF out of the sky, which is called quantitative precipitation forecast. Let's see, does it show? It doesn't. That's okay. All right, so Wind gusts. We mentioned it can be a little bit windy actually tonight, tomorrow morning, by the way, from those storms that die out here in northwest Oklahoma. Models will pick up some pretty decent winds aloft. Some of that make its way to the surface. So if you hear some wind overnight toward tomorrow morning in northwest Oklahoma, don't be surprised. It's decaying remnants of those storms. Let's see. For any storms in the morning, there are tiny little indications. Some of those pockets of wind, there's a little yellow there, up around that's probably close to 50 miles per hour. There's a little stronger indication there, over 50 south of Tulsa. So that first little line may have some pockets of wind with it. And then in the secondary line that develops in the evening, down in southern Oklahoma, looks like there's some good wind with that. So there are some wind signatures, and typically the wind is stronger along a squall line type situation when you're talking about more of a general area of coverage versus just a small storm. So a little bit more widespread wind in that regard. Hail is also going to be pretty decent in size. Let me see what I want to do with that one. And then I'm going to talk about your weekend, by the way, so we can get your latest Memorial Day plans done, and I'm going to turn you loose. How about that? All right, let's see here. All right, the morning hours of the tech model likes some big hail up here in the northern Oklahoma, and some of those storms around 2 inches in diameter. For the later period, it still likes the big hail, but it's not going anything greater than 2. I see some yellow or orange right here in central Oklahoma. So it's still like an actual about 2-inch size hail, which is obviously damaging hail, and that's going to cause you to get a new roof if you get hit by that. If we look at the weekend forecast, let's just jump into that. We go through time here. Of course, we'll have this event coming up tonight, tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have southwest Oklahoma potentially. Then we're going to go into there's nothing on Saturday. Saturday looks good. And now we're going to go into, here's Sunday. There's Sunday morning. So a complex of storms out here Saturday night and a Sunday morning across, comes out of Colorado and Kansas from upslope conditions. And then those move through the Texas Panhandle, may grace the western counties there of Oklahoma Sunday morning for your weekend. And there are some isolated storm activity for any residual boundaries that may pop up for Sunday afternoon, but the body of the state looks pretty quiet, at least the eastern 2/3. As we head into Sunday night into Monday morning, same kind of signal. Stuff develops up northwest, travels south and east, but it's a little bit more east with time on this one. So Sunday night and Monday morning, we may end up having to deal with more widespread showers and storms across the state, and then some bubbling of pockets of storms for Monday afternoon. So Memorial Day itself, we could end up being a little damp and stormy for some of you out there on the lake, and that continues into Monday night. So with that latest information, what I'm telling you now is for the weekend, try to enjoy most of your outdoor activities on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The exception to that rule is going to be far western Oklahoma on all those days, and then the Sunday late into Monday across the rest of the state. So all day Monday and a Monday night. You're just going to have to deal with probably some storms out there. Just make sure you use like my weather app. It's free. It's called AT's Weather to Go. You can track those storms. It'll tell you when a storm is approaching. It'll tell you if it's dangerous or not. It'll tell you when lightning is in the area so you can get off the water in plenty of time. It'll tell you if there's got a twisting storm alert. If you happen to deal with a tornado situation on Monday, it's too early to even talk about that, so I'm not. But if it turns out there's some tornadic activity on Memorial Day, just like on Thursday, it'll let you know ahead of time. It'll send you out an alert first. It'll say twisting storm alert. It'll give you a BTI number from 0 to 10. By the way, temperatures you can tell over the next several days are going to be in the 70s because of the cloud cover and the rain around. So it's kind of cooling things down a little bit. Plus that cold front that comes in on tomorrow night. That's going to help to kind of keep things on a cooler side as well, which, cooler weather helps to limit severe weather. So even if we may see some storms on Monday, for example, that's a better environment to see them in when you're only topping at around 70 degrees. It's a lot harder to get severe weather when it's that much cooler versus when it's in the 80s. But anyway, so back to what I was saying with the app, you'll get a BTI number from 0 to 10. If you get that and there's a twisting storm coming your way and it's on a low number, 1, 2, or 3, you just pay attention. But if it's on a 4, 5, or 6, you might want to think about getting into shelter, at least getting your stuff together. And then if it's a 7, 8, 9, and 10, it's hit the deck. All right, don't even wait, just jump in the shelter. So that's kind of how you would use those numbers and interpret them as they come your way. It's a confidence probability factor based off of proprietary data for predicting tornadoes. Now that'll come even before a warning comes out from the National Weather Service, so it gives you extra time to prepare. And that's why my slogan is, when seconds count, give yourself minutes. So if you were only going to get 30 seconds or 60 seconds warning that a tornado was coming, well, how about 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes? I'd definitely take the 20 minutes. So use the weather app. It'll save your life and your friends and family, and you can keep tabs on them. You can put in locations for all your kids and your grandparents, their second homes, your work, whatever it may be, and it'll alert you if any of those locations are going to be in the path of something dangerous. So that's called AT's Weather to Go. It's on Apple and Google Play. And if you like what I do as far as content creation is concerned, and you appreciate the weather coverage, you'd like to join our Facebook fan subscribers, go ahead and do that. Also, YouTube has an option for memberships. Let's see, you got Patreon, you've got Subscribestar. Those are all in the description of this video. Just click on the video down below, and it'll take you right to where you can do that. And I just launched tonight my spring store. It's called Teespring. They're renaming it to just Spring, but and Bonfire. So you can get shirts there, you can get koozies, drinkware, all that kind of stuff on the Spring store, and I'll be adding more to it with time. So that's also in the description. But I'm actually in the last post I think I made on my Facebook wall. So I think that covers everything. I'm looking down, I see on the comments, some of you on some serious 3-week streaks on the stars. So Deborah, you are an awesome rock star tonight. Let me go to a couple of the questions, and then I think that's going to be it. So let me load that up here real quick. Okay. Right. On YouTube, by the way, see you guys there. So appreciate you guys chiming in and leaving your comments and questions. Dakota. He says, what is your OnlyFans account? I don't have one. That's funny, though. Anyway, so you guys on YouTube, you can always use Super Chat, for example, and then you can always join as well. They have a membership platform there, too. And make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified. By the way, if you're on, do me a favor. I need your guys' help on this. If you're on Facebook right now and or YouTube, go to the YouTube page, and I'm going to post the link, but I need you to subscribe. And even if you're on Facebook too, just do it. There's 2 reasons for that. One is Facebook doesn't always tell you when I go live. YouTube does it better, especially when you do the bell thing. And you can just watch whatever platform you want to. That's one aspect. But 2, unfortunately, YouTube only rewards those that have a certain number of subscribers on the page to unlock certain features. So for me, for unlocking things such as closed captioning on the fly, I have to have, I think it's 10,000 subs. Well, I don't know what number I'm at, but I think it's just under 10,000. So if you can go there and just subscribe, then that will unlock that feature. And that way, anyone who watches on YouTube can get closed captioning provided. Because currently, right now, it's only done on Facebook. But YouTube will do it for me if I get a number of subscribers. That's another reason why I want you to go out there and subscribe to that channel. Even if you're already on Facebook, it's fine. You can do both. And you can find me, just go to youtube.com/Aaron Tuttle OK. So just type out AT, Aaron Tuttle, the letters OK, like O and then K, like for Oklahoma, shorthand. And then you can get to my channel that way. But I really appreciate, though, if you would do that. And I need to do another post about that anyway, just to get people to do it. And that will help people out when it comes to closed captioning. Because I know there's cases where you can't listen. You're in a board meeting or you got a baby asleep or whatever. So that's the reasons for those kind of deals. Deborah's on it. Appreciate it. So Ashley's saying, I like they. They're saying they think the morning storms will cancel out tomorrow afternoon storms in Tulsa. So, yeah, so actually, let's see. Well, guess what, Ashley? Jody got a message on her phone tonight that I was going live on Twitter from, I think, 24 hours ago or 2 days ago. So they're all having some trouble, I think. I don't know what's going on in the world of getting current live notifications, but I think all the platforms might be having some problems. But if you're joining late and you said, okay, Aaron, I missed all the technical explanation, can you give it to me, the 30-second version? Yeah, I can. So here's the deal. I'll do a live tomorrow at lunchtime, so we'll see how things are going. Now, if it looks like there will be, tornadoes or that kind of a deal in the morning hours, if I can, I'll try to cover those. Otherwise, use my free weather app, AT's Weather, to go, so you stay safe. But I will plan on doing it live in the morning, at least around probably 11:30, something like that. And then we'll see where the position of the storms are and the outflow boundary associated with them. Because, to answer your question about Tulsa, you'll get those morning storms, and so Oklahoma City up through midday. Then those will move south and east. And then the question is, do they die out? Does the outflow boundary not move too far south and curl back into central Oklahoma? Now, if it does, and we get round 2, that's late afternoon, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they ride over those boundaries, that's a tornado enhancing situation. All right. But Tulsa should be in what we call the high bubble or the meso high, which means you should be storm free regardless for the second round of storms. You'll get the first round, but not the second round. So that's just one element on the table. The Storm Prediction Center and the Weather Service had highlighted northeast Oklahoma for the best potential for tornadoes. The thinking is, again, that's probably mostly for the first round because the second round would be shifted to the south. But even they, in their discussions, mention this can all just go to Hades, depending on where all these boundaries end up. So when you're doing that kind of a forecast on what we call microclimates, it's a mesoscale, but more a micro scale event. You can't see some of those fine details the day before. We know they're going to happen. We know the general area, but as far as exact placement, you can't do it. It's not possible. But at least we got the idea. So anyway, then we get storms overnight that move through the state with that secondary round here in central, southern, and eastern Oklahoma. Any of these storms will have some potential for damaging winds, large hail, and a couple of tornadoes at least. So that looks like our Thursday. And then for Friday, far southwest Oklahoma, could be some morning activity, otherwise late day stuff. Again, potential there is for some hail, damaging winds, and maybe a tornado in southwest Oklahoma. And then over the weekend, looks fairly decent for most of the state. This is from Friday onward. There will be some storms likely that kind of glance the western counties, maybe Saturday night, and then again Sunday night. And then those Sunday night ones will probably drift eastward and hold together a little bit longer. And then we may end up being scattered or widely scattered storms and showers on Monday. The severity of it is still too early because we're going to be a little cooler thanks to the front that comes in tomorrow night. So too early to talk about that kind of stuff, but you may have to dodge some storms around the region on Monday. But so it looks like at least most of our weekend looks good for most people. It's just, it's a pattern where this kind of stuff can happen. All right, I think that was pretty much a good summary for you. Let me scroll through here. I'm going to go to my, you're welcome, Mary, on YouTube. I'm going to go to my, you guys on my Patreon page. See if you guys had any questions. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the main page. So Ginger says she gets notifications on YouTube first, and then she gets it on Facebook. That's usually the way it goes. I'm camping in Branson, Missouri. Will there be a tornado threat or anything like that tomorrow? Yeah, you should probably use my weather app up there, Tyler, because probably be a couple of nasty storms in that area. How do we change the warning sound or even the notice volume in the app? Even with my phone on and turned up, it's hard to hear. Yeah, I really hate Apple and Google sometimes. So they keep changing things for app developers, and they take away coding abilities that used to be there. So for me to override what you could do, like in your app, especially on iPhones, you could change your volume and you could change a whole different sound. They took all that away. So I'm in the process of trying to figure out another workaround for that. So you can always put it on a D&D override, so do not disturb. But I always recommend, even though my app is great, and there are other apps out there too that are decent too, I always recommend you have backups, like a NOAA weather radio. And that thing will go on at night no matter what. Now, you may not get the early warning and notification my app provides, but you'll at least still get whatever comes from the National Weather Service. So it won't be proprietary stuff, but from private sector, but it will be at least the government sector. And that's what their goal is for safety also. So make sure you get a programmable NOAA weather radio. I actually have a link in this live broadcast at the bottom. It's on my Amazon store. I highlight one of the better NOAA weather radios out there. It's programmable. So click on that if you want to pick that up and get prime shipping. Of course, it won't be here in time for tomorrow's event, but at least you'll have it for any other event after that. Let's see. I'm going to scroll through some more comments. Boy, a couple of you guys are from Branson out there tonight. Clint, you're welcome. Joe says, is it possible the cold front blasts through the metro and squashes a lot of the severe weather potential? It is, Joe. I told a friend of mine, I said, watch this whole thing be a bust. If that morning round comes in too much and it shoves that outflow boundary way south into southern Oklahoma, then it's just the southern counties that have to deal with any residual redevelopment late day. It's just the way it goes. But you got to watch those morning events sometimes. I'm attending an outdoor wedding on Saturday, so you should be okay, Alicia. Did you win the contest for best meteorologist? I don't know. I didn't have time to look today. I was busy doing a bunch of other things, but I'm pretty sure we did. You guys came out there and flooded the contest. Man, y'all came out in droves. That was awesome. I kind of felt bad for the other guys because they hardly had any likes or anything on there. But that's fine with me. We can win the internet. You guys won the internet yesterday. Let's see. Does the app work for other states? Lori, yes it does. It works nationwide. And there's been some added data that I can put in there now. So I can't cover the entire world, but I can cover all of the U.S. and even now some surrounding areas. If you go to parts of Canada or Mexico, down around the Virgin Islands, where there is radar coverage and stuff, some of the features will work down there. So make sure you take it with you when you travel, go on vacation. When you get into those outer skirts out of the continuous, states, I can't guarantee everything's going to work like it does, on the mainland. For example, like tornado detection and prediction, but usually when you leave the country, you're not going to be in that type of a situation anyway. But you might have some lightning and stuff approaching, and if you're in a tropical area with a drink in your hand, you might want to know that. All right, so I just scrolled up to all the comments I could get that Facebook would allow me to see, which wasn't a whole lot. Jason, according to the news weather guys, tomorrow's Happy Death Day. Listen, I got to tell you, man, you have to understand that business model. They need storms in the spring. So when they don't have storms in the spring, it hurts because they don't get the viewership they normally would get, which means they don't get the ratings they would normally get, which means they can't charge a little bit better prices, for ad revenue. So it all takes a hit. So that's their bread and butter in this market is weather. So that's why they always go over the board when it comes to weather. And on top of that, they're bored, man. I mean, these guys have been chomping at the bit for anything. So they finally have an option, to talk about storms, and now they're all excited. So here's part of that, and this is because I was in that boat once, so I know how it is. But it goes in anything in life. If you have blinders on, all right, you're in a biased field where you feed around the energy around you, but everybody feeds on that same negative or overexcited energy. You get caught up in it, You can't see outside this box you're into. So a lot of the TV guys are in this box that they can't see outside of. So when I got outside the box, all of a sudden all this, energy that was always there of excitement and, we're going to kick butt today. We're going to put on a show. I'm telling you, when I say put on a show, I'm not kidding you. All that kind of fades away. And then you're like looking back as a meteorologist again, you're like, oh, well, this isn't that big of a deal. Oh, well, that's just typical wind and hail. Big deal. So it's those type of realizations. So when you step out of that hyped up environment, you can just more sit back and appreciate the weather for what it is, but you don't get lost in all of your own noise and echo chamber. So a lot of TV guys are in their own echo chamber and they can't get out of it. All right. So if you're going to watch that, just understand that you're watching an echo chamber, and it's first on, last off. And what do I mean by that? It means that whoever's first to cut on is the winner, and whoever's the last one to cry uncle is the winner too. And everyone else in between, if you ain't first, you're last. So that's the name of the game, and that's the way it is in this market. And it is out of control. So that's why you're here, because you don't get that out of control stuff here. So sometimes I get bored with the weather. I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you watch me when I do these long cut-ins for if I track tornadic storms or potential for tornadoes, and of course when there is a tornado, I'm going to tell you all about it and why it's going to do it, why it won't do it, or why it's going to die or whatever. And then when it kind of does die, and I'm sitting there and I'm basically babysitting a storm that's just doing nothing, I'm bored. And the TV guys are still screaming up and down. It could happen at any minute, and we're all going to, whatever. And I'm going, this is done. And then I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to go and eat something. But you can turn on the TV and watch more bells and whistles for nothing. But that's just the way it goes. So sometimes I do get a little tired and bored when the storms quiet down, because my focus mainly is just on the tornadoes. I will cover extreme events, kind of like the one we had in Norman, the big hail, wind-driven hail. That's a huge event. So those type of events I'll cover sometimes if I'm available. Otherwise, I kind of stick mostly to tornadoes just because my time is very limited. And my time is very valuable, and I never have enough of it. And people, it's funny is, only you put value into your time. Everyone else thinks your time is worthless. It has no value. So my time is very valuable to me. You guys may not understand that or see it, but I do. And of course Jody does, and I'm cognizant of that. So I try to, do the most I can do without driving myself crazy or, just getting out of control. So I do more hyper local focused type events for like tornadoes kind of a deal. Then of course I'll just do these forecasts for you because you guys like them. All right, well that is it. I'm out of here. You guys have a great night tonight. Sleep well. Look for the update in the morning. If you're going to be in northern Oklahoma, you will wake up tomorrow morning, especially northwest Oklahoma, with some more storms around. And then we could actually have, there could be a couple of tornadoes, before noon. And that cluster of storms up north, it just kind of depends on how things evolve in that time frame. So if you live in Tulsa and the northern half of the state, just keep your eyes open. And then from lunchtime forward, it's going to be kind of focused on central and southern Oklahoma for the rest of the day. So we'll just play it by ear. All right, guys, be good. Thanks again for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Talk soon. Good night.